What if some of the foods you trust most at the grocery store are actually the ones working against you? Not the obvious junk, but everyday items marketed as healthy, convenient, and safe. Because once you see how these products are really made, you won't look at your grocery list the same way again. Number 1. Flavored instant oatmeal packets. Flavored instant oatmeal is one of those foods that carries an almost automatic sense of trust, something warm, familiar, and associated with doing the right thing for your body. Especially when brands like Quaker package it in flavors like apples and cinnamon or maple and brown sugar, reinforcing the idea that this is a quick, healthy way to start your day. But the version most people are eating is very different from the one they believe they are choosing, because the moment oats are processed into instant form, their structure changes in a way that allows them to digest much faster. And when that is combined with added sugars and flavoring agents, the result is something your body processes in a completely different way than traditional oats. Instead of delivering the slow, steady release of energy people expect, it often creates a rapid rise in blood sugar, followed by a drop that shows up as hunger not long after you have finished eating. And what makes this especially easy to overlook is that it still looks like oatmeal, still tastes familiar, and still carries the same health association people have trusted for years. That sense of familiarity lowers your guard, which makes it easier to eat repeatedly without ever questioning how it is actually affecting you. And over time, that pattern begins to matter far more than the single bowl you had in the moment. Number 2. Pre-made store sushi. Pre-made store sushi is designed to look fresh, with neatly arranged rolls displayed behind glass at places like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, or Safeway, creating the impression of something light, balanced, and closer to real food than most grab-and-go options. On the surface, it seems like a smart choice, built around simple ingredients like fish, rice, and seaweed. But what most people do not consider is that this sushi is not made to be eaten immediately. It is made to sit. In order to maintain its appearance and safety over time, the rice is often treated with sugar and vinegar blends to preserve texture, while the fish relies heavily on refrigeration and handling processes that prioritize shelf life over peak freshness. And those adjustments subtly change the experience. What you are eating is not just sushi, but sushi that has been stabilized, adapted to hold up under display conditions rather than consumed at its freshest point. And while nothing about it feels obviously wrong, it is no longer the same as something prepared and eaten in the moment. That difference is easy to ignore because it does not announce itself. But once you start thinking about how the food has been modified to fit convenience rather than freshness, it becomes much harder to see it as the same thing. That idea of enhancing something simple until it becomes something else entirely is even more obvious when you look at what people are drinking. Number 3. Powdered drink mixes. Powdered drink mixes are often positioned as an upgrade to water, something that promises better hydration, more energy, or added benefits through products like Crystal Light, Mio, or electrolyte blends. Like Liquid IV, all built around the idea that plain water is somehow not enough. At first, it feels like a useful solution, especially for people who struggle to drink enough water, because adding flavor makes the experience more enjoyable and easier to maintain. But the way these products are constructed tells a more complicated story. Behind that immediate flavor is a combination of artificial sweeteners, flavoring compounds, and stabilizers designed to dissolve instantly and create a consistent taste every time. And while some of them include vitamins or electrolytes, the delivery system changes how your body responds. When sweetness becomes part of your hydration routine, it begins to shift your baseline expectations, making plain water feel less satisfying by comparison. And over time, that subtle shift can turn into a pattern where you no longer reach for water on its own, but for the enhanced version of it instead. What started as a convenience quietly becomes something you rely on. And once that reliance is established, it becomes much harder to go back to something as simple as water without feeling like something is missing. Number 4. Canned pasta meals. Canned pasta meals, like Chef Boyardee or SpaghettiOs, are built around familiarity, offering something quick, affordable, and easy to prepare with almost no effort at all, which is exactly why they have remained so popular for so long. You open the can, heat it up, and within minutes, you have a complete meal that feels comforting and predictable. But what most people never stop to think about is how that meal is able to exist in that form for such a long time. Because in order to sit on a shelf for months or even years, these products rely on high levels of sodium, preservatives, and stabilizers that maintain flavor and texture over time, meaning what you are eating has been fundamentally altered to prioritize durability over freshness. That trade-off is not something you feel immediately, which is what makes it so easy to overlook. Number 5. Flavored microwave rice packs. Flavored microwave rice packs, like Ben's Original Ready Rice, seem like one of the most harmless shortcuts in the store, taking a basic ingredient and making it instantly available in just a few minutes, which makes them incredibly appealing for busy schedules. Rice is usually seen as neutral, something simple and safe, which is exactly why it rarely gets questioned. But in order to maintain that convenience and shelf stability, these products often include added oils, sodium, and flavor enhancers that transform the final product into something very different from plain rice. Because rice on its own does not naturally sit in a sealed pouch for extended periods. Without changing, it has to be adjusted, and those adjustments become part of what you are actually eating. The shift is subtle enough that most people never notice it, because nothing about the experience feels extreme. However, you are no longer eating just rice. You are eating everything that was added to preserve it. And over time, those additions begin to matter more than the convenience that made you choose it in the first place, because what seemed like a small shortcut gradually turns into a pattern that is much harder to see from the inside than it is once you step back and look at it clearly. Number 6. Store-bought pancake syrup. Store-bought pancake syrup is one of those foods that feels so familiar it almost disappears into the background. Something poured automatically over breakfast without a second thought, especially when brands like Pearl Milling Company or Mrs. Butterworth's have made it a staple in kitchens for generations. It looks like maple syrup, pours like maple syrup, and is used exactly the same way, which is precisely why most people never question what it actually is. Because in many cases, it is not maple syrup at all, but a carefully constructed blend of high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavoring, and coloring designed to replicate the experience of the real thing at a lower cost. And while that difference might seem minor on the surface, the way your body processes those ingredients is not the same. Unlike pure maple syrup, which contains trace minerals and a different composition, these alternatives deliver a more concentrated form of sweetness that is absorbed quickly, especially when paired with foods like pancakes or waffles that are already built around refined carbohydrates. What feels like a small addition becomes part of a much larger surge your body has to manage all at once. And because it is used as a topping, it rarely feels like the main factor. Number 7. Frozen pizza. Frozen pizza is built around one promise above all else: convenience. Something brands like DiGiorno, Totino's, and Red Baron have perfected by offering a complete meal that requires almost no effort, turning a box in your freezer into something hot and satisfying within minutes. And for what it is, it works, delivering something that feels filling and familiar at the exact moment you need it. But the way frozen pizza is designed is what changes what you are actually eating. Because in order to survive freezing, transport, storage, and reheating, every component has to be engineered to hold up under those conditions. From the crust that is formulated to stay soft on the inside while crisping on the outside, to the cheese that is processed to melt evenly without separating, to the toppings that are preserved in ways that allow them to remain stable over time. Each layer is built for durability rather than freshness, and while nothing about that feels extreme in the moment, it does mean that what looks like a balanced combination of ingredients has been adjusted in ways that prioritize shelf life over simplicity. Number 8. Fruit snacks. Fruit snacks are one of the easiest foods to overlook because everything about them is designed to feel harmless, from the bright colors to the familiar fruit shapes to labels that often say made with real fruit, creating the impression that they are somehow closer to something natural than traditional candy. Brands like Welch's, Mott's, and Annie's have leaned into that idea, positioning these snacks as a better option, especially for kids. But when you look beyond the packaging, the structure of the product tells a different story. Because most fruit snacks are built from sugar, corn syrup, modified starches, and gelatin, combined in a way that creates that soft, chewy texture people expect, with only small amounts of fruit concentrate included, if any. And unlike whole fruit, which comes with fiber and water that slow down digestion, fruit snacks deliver that sweetness in a concentrated form that is easy to consume quickly. Number 9. Shelf-stable whipped toppings. Shelf-stable whipped toppings, like Cool Whip, are designed to feel almost weightless, something light, airy, and easy to add to desserts or drinks without thinking twice, which is exactly why they rarely feel like something worth questioning. They look simple, behave predictably, and deliver the same texture every time, creating a sense of consistency that people come to trust. But what gives them that consistency is what makes them different from what they appear to be. Because instead of being made from traditional cream, these products rely on processed oils, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and artificial flavoring to create that same smooth, whipped texture, while allowing it to hold its shape over time. That stability is not accidental. It is designed, built into the product, so it can last longer and behave the same way every time it is used. Number 10. Boxed mac and cheese. Boxed mac and cheese is one of the most recognizable comfort foods there is, something brands like Kraft have turned into a household staple by making it simple, affordable, and consistently satisfying, which is exactly why it has remained so popular for so long. It is quick to prepare, easy to customize, and delivers a familiar taste that feels reliable every time. But what most people do not consider is how that powdered cheese sauce is actually made. Because it is not cheese in the traditional sense, but a blend of processed ingredients, flavoring compounds, and additives designed to replicate the taste and texture of cheese while remaining shelf-stable for long periods of time. The pasta itself is typically refined, and the sauce is engineered to behave in a very specific way once mixed, creating a final product that looks and tastes familiar, but is structurally very different from something made with whole ingredients. Number 11. Energy drinks. Energy drinks are built around a promise that is hard to ignore, offering focus, alertness, and performance in a way that feels immediate and accessible, something brands like Red Bull, Monster, and Bang have turned into a global phenomenon by positioning themselves as a solution to fatigue, long days, and demanding schedules. And in the short term, they deliver exactly what they promise. You feel more awake, more focused, more capable of pushing through whatever is in front of you. But the way that effect is created is what makes it more complex beneath the surface. Because energy drinks rely on a combination of caffeine, stimulants, and either sugar or artificial sweeteners, all working together to create a rapid response in your system. And while that response feels productive at first, it also sets up what comes next: the drop. The moment when that initial boost begins to fade and your body starts to return to baseline, often leaving you feeling like you need another one just to maintain the same level of energy. And that is where the pattern begins. Because what starts as something occasional, a boost when you need it, can gradually become something you rely on more regularly, not because you want to, but because your baseline has shifted to expect it. And once that shift happens, what once felt like an extra advantage begins to feel like something you cannot go without, which is what makes it so difficult to step away. Number 12. Plain rolled oats. After everything we've just looked at, this is where the tone begins to shift, because not all foods are built the same way, and plain rolled oats are one of the clearest examples of that difference. There are no added flavorings, no hidden sweeteners, and no engineered textures designed to change how your body responds. Just a single ingredient that remains close to its original form, which is exactly what makes it so reliable. Unlike instant flavored versions, which are processed to break down quickly and deliver immediate taste, rolled oats retain more of their natural structure, and that structure plays a critical role in how your body processes them. Instead of creating a rapid spike followed by a drop, they digest more gradually, allowing energy to be released in a steady, controlled way that aligns with what people expect when they choose oatmeal in the first place. And that is where the difference becomes clear, because this is not about removing foods entirely or overcomplicating what you eat, but about recognizing when something has been altered beyond its original state and when it has been left relatively intact. The closer a food stays to what it started as, the less your body has to adjust, and the more predictable its response becomes, which is exactly what makes something as simple as rolled oats feel so different once you begin to notice it. Number 13. Canned beans, low sodium. At first glance, canned foods might seem like something to avoid altogether, especially after seeing how often shelf stability comes with trade-offs. But canned beans are one of the rare cases where that assumption does not fully apply. When you choose low-sodium options from brands like Goya, Eden Organic, or even simple store-brand varieties with minimal ingredients, what you are getting remains surprisingly close to the original food. Beans, water, and salt, sometimes nothing more than that. And when they are rinsed, much of the excess sodium is removed, leaving behind something that still contains fiber, plant-based protein, and a structure your body recognizes without needing to reinterpret it. There is no need to rebuild flavor or recreate texture because those elements already exist naturally within the food itself. And that simplicity is what makes it dependable, because when fewer steps are taken to alter something, fewer variables are introduced, which makes the outcome more consistent over time. It becomes something you can rely on, not because it has been enhanced or improved, but because it has been left largely unchanged. Number 14. Plain nuts, unflavored. The contrast becomes even more noticeable when you look at something like plain, unflavored nuts, because in their simplest form, they do not require anything additional to function the way they are supposed to. There are no coatings, no sweeteners, and no artificial flavoring, just fat, protein, and natural structure working together in a way that your body already understands. While brands like Blue Diamond or Wonderful Pistachios offer a wide range of flavored options that are built to be more intense and more difficult to stop eating, the plain versions exist without that layer of engineering, which changes how they are experienced. Without added oils or sugars designed to enhance taste, they tend to be more filling, more satisfying, and less likely to trigger the kind of continuous snacking that comes from foods optimized for flavor above everything else. And that difference matters, because when something satisfies you without encouraging you to keep eating beyond what you need, it naturally creates a different pattern over time. It is not about restriction or control, but about allowing the food itself to function without interference, which is what makes something as simple as plain nuts stand out once you begin to compare them to their processed alternatives. Number 15. Fresh potatoes. Few foods have been misunderstood as consistently as potatoes, largely because of how often they are associated with the forms they are most commonly seen in: fried, processed, packaged, or heavily modified into something that barely resembles the original ingredient. But when you step back and look at a fresh potato on its own, without anything added to it, what you are left with is something far simpler than its reputation suggests. A single ingredient, unprocessed, containing energy, fiber, and nutrients in a form your body already recognizes, which is very different from products like fast food fries from McDonald's or packaged chips from Lay's, where oils, additives, and processing techniques fundamentally change how that same starting ingredient behaves. And once that distinction becomes clear, it becomes easier to separate the food itself from what has been done to it, because the issue is not the potato, it is the transformation it undergoes in its more common forms. When it is baked, roasted, or boiled without those additions, it returns to something much closer to its original state. And that simplicity is what makes it reliable again. Number 16, cottage cheese. It is not usually the first thing people think of when they consider safe foods, and in many cases, it is overlooked entirely, either dismissed as outdated or grouped in with other dairy products that have become more controversial over time. But when you step back and look at what cottage cheese actually is, especially simple versions from brands like Good Culture or even basic store brands with minimal ingredients, you start to see something very different from most of the products we have talked about. Because at its core, cottage cheese is built from just a few components: milk, cultures, and salt. Without the need for heavy processing, artificial flavoring, or structural modification to make it appealing. It does not rely on added sugars to improve taste. It does not need stabilizers to mimic a texture it does not naturally have. And it does not require a long list of ingredients to maintain its identity over time. And that simplicity changes how your body responds to it. Instead of delivering a rapid spike followed by a drop, it provides protein and fat in a form that tends to be more gradual and more satisfying, which is exactly what many heavily marketed, high-protein products attempt to replicate but often fail to deliver in the same way. What makes this especially interesting is how easily it blends into different routines without needing to be transformed. Whether it is eaten on its own, paired with fruit, or used as part of a larger meal, it remains relatively unchanged in the process. And that is what makes it stand out, not because it is perfect, but because it has not been rebuilt into something else. The truth is, most of these foods don't seem harmful, they just feel normal. But once you understand what's really behind them, your choices start to change. If this opened your eyes, drop a comment and subscribe to Face the Foods, because this is just the beginning.